Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Kaylana, the Bus Driver. So today's topic, I'm going to briefly discuss the hours and the batches in regards to Instacart because so many shoppers, and mainly the new ones, and I kind of want to address this with the new people that have been with Instacart for probably under 90 days. Okay, so the main question that I see that people are asking is, I've been sitting for hours and I have not gotten any orders or any batches. What's going on? How come they're not sending me anything, et cetera, et cetera. Now, there are many factors that will take into play as to why you're not getting any batches. And so, like, there are many factors. And so don't always think that it's necessarily negative if you do not receive anything, if you have been on the clock for a while. Now, I'm going to just briefly discuss to you some of the factors that could take into place why you're not receiving any batches, especially if you've been on shift for a while, or you've maybe been on for like an hour, you haven't gotten anything, because I get that sometimes. There's times where I've been on for a while and I haven't gotten anything for hours. However, I just noticed that mainly the people that are brand new with Instacart, they ask this all the time. They panic. They don't know what to do. They're like freaking out. How come? First of all, you need to pay attention to the zone that you're in, the state that you're in, because some areas are relatively new, and not everybody in your zone, as far as like customers, know about Instacart. You feel what I'm saying? And so, and also think about some people that that maybe live in your city or your state or whatever, like wherever you are, may not necessarily shop at the same store. That's also a factor, because if people don't know about Instacart, then of course they're not going to order from Instacart. You see what I'm saying? And so even though you might have people that frequently maybe shop at that particular store that we're shopping from with Instacart, they may not even know about Instacart, or probably haven't even paid it any attention. So that's one thing to think about. Also, as far as with the customers, you know, some people have just not had a chance to sign up. They may want to, so you may not be getting any orders from people who haven't signed up yet. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And so everybody who has opportunity to use Instacart services may not. And also consider there's other grocery shopping delivery companies as well. So the Instacart is not the only one. There's Shipped. I think HelloFresh is still around. Peapod, there's Purple Carrot. I mean, there's so many other ones. And so they're not just using Instacart. That's also something to keep in mind. Also to keep in mind is that Instacart may not be as busy in your zone. For one thing, if your zone is relatively new, most people may not know about it just yet. Some people live in like rural areas or areas that are like country or out in the woods, out in the mountains or something. And so based upon where you are, you may not have that much business because the population may not be that high. And some people feel the need not to even use Instacart because they want to shop for their own groceries. You see what I'm saying? So that's something that you need to think about is, your zone and, the population, things like that. And so everyone's not going to use the services. That's something that you guys need to think about. Another thing is the time of day. And also the days as far as how busy it is, because there are days where Instacart is always busy. Now, before I get into that, there are states and cities that I know of that are constantly busy. I've talked to and I've seen other shoppers post it that they are always busy. I know certain cities like San Francisco, I know I say this a lot, but that's where the Instacart headquarters is. But San Francisco is heavily populated. It's a lot of people there. Los Angeles, I mean, things like that. And so you might have places that's going to always be busy. Even if they have a lot of shoppers, they're going to always be busy. You see what I'm saying? And so that's something to also think about. Is the area that you're in busy? Is it going to be busy enough? I know like Sundays and Mondays and some Tuesdays are usually busy. Also Saturdays are busy days, but mostly I would say Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and of course Saturday are busy, or like busier days. But mostly Mondays and Sundays are busy because people want to go and get their groceries for the week. That's something to think about. Now, you may be saying, okay, well, I'm scheduled for those days. I'm scheduled for those hours. I have plenty of hours scheduled, but I'm still not getting anything. So another factor could be that Instacart has hired a lot of people in your zone. Maybe you are once getting plenty of batches and all of a sudden you're not getting anything anymore or getting very minimal. That's a factor. And so, and a way that you can actually check that out is every Monday, Instacart sends out a report as far as your metrics and how well you did as far as your shopping speed and things like that. When you get that email on Monday, look at the bottom of your score as far as your shopping speed, because inside of that table it has people's initials, like as far as like the shopper's initials, and then it'll have your initial, and then it'll show where you are as far as your shopping speed. At the bottom it says total shoppers that have shopped or something like that. It'll have like a number, like it'll say shoppers for this week or whatever. It might have like 50 or 100 or 30 or 20, like whatever. That's how you'll know. Pay attention to that every single week. If you notice that the number is increasing in shoppers, that means that they're hiring more people. And so the more people that they hire, depending on the volume of customers that we get and how they order, determines how much you're going to make. Okay. And so a lot of people don't know that, but that does make a difference. And so also there's other factors that also take into place as to why you're not getting any batches. It just may not be busy. That's something that people don't think about, but it's true. It just may not be busy. It could be a holiday. I know holidays are kind of hit or miss, because I know typically the days or the weeks leading up to a holiday, that's when it becomes quite busy, at least for me, because like I've been with Instacart for almost a year, not quite, but I would say about 10 months, close to 10 months. And I noticed that close to the holidays is when it was busy, because I know I was working during the Thanksgiving and Christmas time, of course. But after the holidays, it wasn't that busy. So because people have already purchased their groceries, they're ordering food, for the holidays, and they're going to cook everything. So they have tons of leftovers. They have family and friends that are over visiting. And so they want to, focus on that. And so it might not be as busy. And sometimes you might not get an order at all for an entire day. It depends. So that's a factor. And I know people, I know that people think that seniority could be an issue, like as far as like getting an order or a batch. It depends, because I've heard mixed reviews and mixed information about that. Like I know a lot of people who have been with Instacart for like years, since the beginning, like since the onset of it, and they're not treated any different. Like for instance, they don't get any type of priority as far as when they get batches and stuff like that. And then there's some who do. So it's really hard to say. And I don't want to insinuate or assume, so I'm not going to really specifically go into that as far as seniority. The reason why I say that is because, I've been in Instacart for almost a year. I would say about 10 months, almost 10 months. And so think about, like, I've noticed that when they hire new people, it gets kind of slow. I mean, not too bad, but I noticed that it's not as busy, like back-to-back orders like it used to be. And so, and also I noticed that when I go to the stores, I see new shoppers. And it's not always that they hire new people. Sometimes it's just that there are some shoppers who go to different zones. Like, for instance, you may shop in a particular city and they say, hey, you know what? It's getting kind of slow here. It's dead. I'm going to start shopping in a different city. That's what happens. You have some shoppers that they just migrate to different places. And so that's also a factor. It's not always new people. It's just shoppers just decide to shop in a different zone. And that's their prerogative, because they do have a right to do that. That's another reason why it's a possibility that you're not getting any batches. Another thing is that you need to make sure that you're in your zone, of course, because if you weren't, Instacart would send you a message to tell you to get inside your zone so you won't miss out. Also, if you're always constantly like rejecting batches all the time, as far as like not accepting them, then that could also hinder you getting any batches. Because if you're always like rejecting orders, because you're only allowed to do that like up to twice a day, then that could be a factor. So Instacart's thinking, okay, well, if I keep giving them batches and they don't want them, then they must not want to work. You feel what I'm saying? So don't make that a habit. I know that there's some batches that you may get that you might not want to do because of a particular store you don't want to go to, or you may have an issue with something going on at that store, or maybe a customer you don't want to deal with. If that's the case, you need to reach out to Instacart and let them know what's going on as far as customers, because you do have a right to block people. You can block customers, because and I know I've done it lots of times, and it's not just because of petty stuff. This is some stuff that is very serious. And so some people are racist. I've encountered people that were married, like married men were trying to hit on me, stuff like that. Like I've encountered a lot of stuff, and some people just playing it, and it's nasty. And so as an independent contractor, I mean, whether you're independent contractor or an employee with Instacart, whatever, you still have a right to say no. And you don't have to take that harassment from customers. And so, if Instacart has plenty of shoppers, I'm sure somebody will do it. And so I believe that after a while, if Instacart realizes that the customer is abusive, then of course they will ban them from using Instacart services, and so which is a good thing. So that's something to also consider, and things like that. And so also your speed. Now that I've heard mixed reviews about this too. Like if you're always like slow, and I hate to say that, but if you are like really slow, every zone is different now, because some people think that 90 items per second is good. And I know, like when I did my onboarding last year, the girl that came from San Francisco that trained us in the onboarding, she said that anything that's like 90 and under is pretty good. And so I don't know what your zone is like, but I know that there's shoppers who are way faster than that. Some people do like 40 items a minute. I'm sorry, not 40 items a minute, but they do like every 40 seconds they're able to do like one item. So it's like one item every 40 seconds or something like that, or 45 seconds an item, or well, you know what I mean. Some do like 50 seconds an item, but it's not that bad, which is under a minute, and so they're able to do that. But there's other factors in that. People cheat. I'm not going to go into details about that on this particular video. That's also something to consider, that people do that, and so they feel like if they're very, very fast, they're going to continually get badges. That's partially true. Like they do look at your speed. Like so, if you're fast, and also if you're delivering your orders on time more frequently, then that's also something that Instacart considers. If you have good ratings and reviews, it's also something that they consider. So I will actually get into ratings later, and I believe I did a video on that about metrics a couple months back. So that's something to consider, y'all. So like I said, it depends on your zone. If it's busy, your metrics can maybe take into play. Holidays, things like that. The amount of shoppers in your zone. Are there too many? Things like that. And so also I wanted to say, this is also an important thing I don't want you guys to forget. Another thing that Instacart does that they don't tell you when they hire you is that, yeah, you're a shopper. You can pick as many hours as you want if you have early access. However, Instacart likes to have backup. So say suppose if there are shoppers that are already doing like a I would say like a full-time schedule, and they work a certain amount of hours a week. I don't know, between like 30 and maybe 70 or so. Now, say suppose if you have shoppers that are canceling their hours at the last minute, or they don't come in, or like they don't shop or whatever, they need to make sure that they have extra shoppers on hand to be able to cover any shifts. And it happens, and it may happen to you where you might have an emergency, and you might not be able to go into a shift with Instacart. You might have a car problems. You might have to pick up your kids. You may have to go to to your main job and take care of something. I don't know. It could be any reason. Maybe you get sick and you go to the hospital. Just anything could happen. And so you might have to end up canceling your hours at the last minute, or maybe a few hours before. And what happens is that if you cancel hours at the last minute, it could actually potentially cancel out a customer's order, because everybody's when customers order things through Instacart, and once you're on shift, you're in a queue, and so there are things that have been already assigned to you once you've taken your shift. So when you cancel it, it can cancel the customer's order depending on how many shoppers are in that zone. So they will have to make sure that they find somebody to cover that shift. You see what I'm saying? So they'll see who's closest or whatever, and then have a shopper to take care of that particular order. You see what I'm saying? So those are some of the reasons why you're probably not getting any batches, y'all. Everything that I just said. And so just kind of be patient. And I know it may seem kind of, hectic and, very agitating that, you've been on shift for a while. And it happens to me too now. I'm seriously, like, there's been times where I've been on for hours and never gotten anything. And that doesn't happen too often, but it happens frequently. And so I just roll with it. And if there's nothing that you're doing that you have no control over, then don't worry about it. If you have no control over it, don't worry about it. But just try to find something to do in between time. If you're able to do like a Grubhub order or so, or Uber Eats order, Postmates, Caviar, DoorDash. I mean, there's so many other options you can do in between time. So, if you don't want to do any of those platforms, find something else to do. Work on your business plan. Work on your long-term goals. Work on something else. instead of like sitting around complaining. 'Cause I see people complain all the time, and I've done that. Like, I'm like, how come I don't have any orders? I don't have any batches. It's slow. Well, sometimes it's slow like that, and especially like doing now, it's back to school. It's been steady. Like, I've been making my money, but people aren't so concerned about shopping and ordering the groceries. They need to make sure that their kids have school supplies, that they have clothes, and things like that, and so. Those are some other factors to consider. And Instacart is growing. They're adding more stores. They're expanding. And so just kind of be patient. But realize also, before I let you guys go, just to be fair, and I'm not trying to say this to disappoint anybody, but I'll be honest with you, that consider looking at it like this. Sometimes Instacart, I don't like when they do this, but sometimes they prioritize the new people over the veterans. So some of us who've been with Instacart for a longer period of time, usually like when they have new people to come aboard in that zone or that area, they try to give them the orders first for whatever reason. And so just to make them feel like they're special so they could be able to stay aboard with the company, whatever. And so that's kind of like working at a company and then having, and then wanting extra hours or overtime or to be promoted or something, and then having new people to come in and like they just come in and just take all your hours and they give priority to them, instead of focusing on the people who've been there for a lot longer, who've dedicated themselves. You see what I'm saying? That's a factor, and that's something that a lot of shoppers are upset about. But besides all of that, just realize that, it's going to happen sometimes where you get busy and where you won't. And realize that there are other shoppers who've been there on the platform a lot longer than you. And so, it's only fair to them. Now, maybe you're a shopper who've been on the platform for a long time. You realize it's gotten slow and it has not been as busy as it used to be. As I said a previous, like several minutes ago, those are some of the reasons why. And so, I'm not saying give up or whatever, you just have to roll with it and make sure that you're adding on extra things to do to make extra income, because for some people, Instacart is their full-time job, like myself. And so just try to make it work and just do the best that you can. And don't constantly email them and try to bombard them. Why is it slow? Why am I not getting anything? I mean, there are a lot of factors into that. So just like I said, everything I just said is what it is. And so just hope for the best. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, it's okay. And there are other platforms that you guys could use and to utilize to be able to make more money. I hope that helps you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video. Also, if you would like to continue to see me make any more videos, please, please, please donate to my Patreon page. If you go down and look below, you'll see a link to my Patreon account. Donate any amount of your choice so I continue to make these excellent videos. And I will have exclusive content just for my Patreon subscribers. And I will talk to you guys later. Bless you.